All right, are we rolling here? Welcome to AlbertNet. Today you'll hear the non-race, non-report of the 2021 Fort Ord CCCX cross-country mountain bike race. Introduction. It's become a tradition for me at this time of year to head out to Fort Ord in Monterey and do a mountain bike race. Normally I'm a high school cycling coach, and this is an opportunity for my riders to watch me suffer. But this year, the NorCal League and our team are shut down due to COVID, and so we didn't get to go. This means I don't get to write about my wretched, ill-fated race, another tradition stymied. So for a moment, I considered embracing the fake news zeitgeist and writing a purportedly true but actually totally fabricated race report. After all, as we all already knew but now formally know because we watched The Social Dilemma, false information is far more interesting than the truth. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Then I considered doing a short story, but in my experience, people prefer for their fiction to be labeled fact. So what follows is a completely honest report of the race I didn't do, inspired perhaps by a story I dimly recall from the early 90s called We Didn't by Stuart Dybek. In accordance with the high standards set by my road cycling team, for ride and race reports, I'm going to focus mainly on the food, and I'll provide the report in various versions, starting concisely before waxing verbose. Executive summary. We didn't have our annual team dinner in the windowless back room of the Monterey Brew House. Slogan, we're actually in Salinas. The GPS didn't direct me to a lonely stretch of desolate road in the middle of nowhere, only to announce, "You have arrived." No student laughed so hard that a French fry came out of his nose. And the portions weren't so small that I had to beg for shrapnel from my kid's plate because my kid's gone off to college and the meal never happened. And at the team tent that wasn't erected in the morning, nobody forgot to bring coffee. Thus, the lack of coffee was actual. And during the non-race, non-warm-up, I didn't fail to secure a student's bike properly to the trainer so that he crashed at 0 miles an hour. All the training I didn't do never had a chance to not pay off. The race did not knock the stuffing out of anybody because there was no race and no stuffing. I did not make an endless speech afterward during which the parents clapped politely and the students suffered silently. And when I didn't return home because I hadn't gone anywhere, I did not pour a beer and toast my own robust good health, nor did I drown my sorrows over the loss of my cycling fitness, though that loss and my beer are very real. Short report. Race stats. 0.00 miles versus 22.4 miles last year. 0 feet of vertical gain versus 2,362 last year. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds race time versus 1 hour, 41 minutes, 7 seconds last year. 0.00 miles per hour average speed versus 13.3 miles per hour last year. Conclusion. I have no reason to believe that I will ever again have the fitness necessary to race a bicycle. As far as I can tell, life will not go on, not in any recognizable way. You might say, wait, that's not true. This COVID pandemic shall pass. To which I respond, perhaps, only perhaps. Consider these words from the writer Vladimir Nabokov. At best, the future is the idea of a hypothetical present based on our experience of succession, on our faith in logic and habit. Actually, of course, our hopes can no more bring the future into existence than our regrets change the past. Non-pre-race dinner the night before I didn't race. Lamb steaks that were deliciously rare because they caught fire under the broiler and had to be pulled out prematurely. Mashed potatoes with salted butter and extra salt. Sautéed zucchini, German-style purple cabbage, and Rocky Road ice cream with hot fudge because what do I need to be fit and trim for? Breakfast on the morning that I would have raced. 2 eggs, scrambled, burnt, because I was too impatient to gradually wait for the pan to warm up. And instead put a big flame under it so it was too hot. I could tell it was too hot because the butter smoked, and I knew I should hold back the eggs, take the pan off the heat, let it cool, wipe out the burned butter, and start over. But damn it, fuck it all, I just didn't care and poured the eggs in the pan anyway. 2 slices of white bread that I thought would be wheat because the packager said whole grain oat nut, which was a lie, but I was caught off guard because the bread aisle was disoriented because my glasses were fogged up by my mask, and I wasn't at my normal store where they require a reservation, a temperature test, a long line, a letter from your doctor, and support a maximum occupancy of like 5. And I'm only slightly exaggerating. That bread was toasted, however, with butter and jam. And finally, an apple that wasn't very good because, see above, not my normal store. All right, food during the non-race. Nothing but half a bottle of water because my legs just kind of petered out halfway up South Park because I'm just so tired from the work week since my colleagues, newbies at teleworking, take all the time they would be commuting and pour it into working more, which in a perfect world would just help everybody finish early. But instead, everyone just launches more projects, generates more deliverables, and creates an overall culture that brings to mind that study NASA did of spiders given too much caffeine. Unnecessary glycogen window treat? More ice cream, because it's so rare to have it around the house, and even with one daughter no longer around, I better get the ice cream while I can. Also a macaron that my daughter made from a recipe that was incredibly complicated and took like a day, but then A, the cookie was amazing, and B, what else is she going to do with her time? Full report. To my discredit, I was not very successful in looking around the start line and deciding who the fastest guy was likely to be because there was no start line, no racers, not even myself. As soon as the race did not start, I didn't get right on the wheel of the fastest guy, but if I had, he would have passed everybody during the slight uphill asphalt run up to the dirt. I would have hit the single track in second position and then died on the guy's wheel for a few minutes. And then the single-minded, sport-obsessed, totally unbalanced, evil, tech-titan, quasi-retired, uber-fit bike bastards would have started passing me. It would have been a long race, 4 or 5 laps, and my strategy would have been to pace myself and wait for the guys ahead of me to start detonating so that I could pass them. If I were in racing this form, that would make uphills a blast, obviously. I could be at the CCCX race and see a horrible 12% grade looming ahead, and I'd think, yeah, bring it. I'd look at the guys around me with something like pity. But of course, I'm not in racing form. Why would I be? I'm taking this shelter-in-place opportunity to develop the physique better suited to my current lifestyle. More like the shape of a Coke bottle, or a bowling pin, or those inflatable clown bop bags, or a Weeble that may wobble but it won't fall down. That would stabilize my desk chair, stabilize me in my desk chair. Maybe if I can add some flesh to my face, it wouldn't look so gaunt and thus so old. And after all, nothing below my waist shows in a video conference, so why not develop a big, soft, womany butt? Perhaps an extra 15 or 20 pounds would give me an air of gravitas. Anyway, notwithstanding my new COVID physique, the non-race wasn't too bad. I mean, how bad could it have been? I did find that on the climbs that I wasn't doing, that I could, or perhaps couldn't, put the hurt on any of the people who weren't there. I'd heard these climbs described as really long, but they seemed really short, as in actually literally non-existent. It was a fun race, if only in my mind, but that's actually overstating things. The race did not exist even in reverie. This is the first time I've thought of it, even hypothetically. It's been rainy in the Bay Area, so there would have been several very deep puddles on the course that we'd have bombed through, sending water gushing up everywhere like one of those amusement park water rides. Oddly, only my trailing foot would get splashed. By the end of the race, I would have had a drenched left foot and a bone-dry right foot. On the last lap of my race, had there been one, I may well have seen this guy I'd remembered from previous year's races, who might have been chasing for the whole race, though most of the time he'd have been too far ahead for me to even see. His jersey would have said something pompous like the Woodside Beasts or some other rival high school team, meaning he'd be a coach too. I would have started to close in on him on the final climb, right toward the end of the race. It would have looked like I wasn't gaining fast enough, and that he'd hold me off, except that I'd have been able to tell that he'd have been dying. I'd have dug deeper and deepest, and literally 50 feet from the end of the climb, I'd have finally passed him. Damn, what a sucker punch that would have been. He'd still be pissed off about it. The tricky part would have been holding him off on the last final descent to the finish line. I'm not that great a downhiller because my wife would kill me if I crashed, but I'd have gone for broke. And presently, on a narrow single-track section, I'd have come upon a young high school girl who wouldn't have been going that fast. And I'd have realized that if I got stuck behind her, the beast would catch up and surely pass me in the twisty bits just before the finish line. On the other hand, there would be no place to pass except for the thick bramble alongside the trail. Bramble is a notoriously tricky surface to ride on because the ground can be really bumpy, even rock-infested, beneath the brush, and you wouldn't know till you're on it. You could run over a rock, a beer bottle, a human skull, an empty bottle of hand sanitizer, maybe even a landmine, because what the hell, this is all speculation anyway. I'd have taken the gamble, and it would have been indeed bumpy. My bike would have heaved like a bucking bronco. But I'd have made it past the girl, returned to the single track, and never saw the beast again. After the finish line, feeling truly shattered, I would have been filled with a sublime feeling of having truly given it everything. So it wouldn't have mattered how I'd placed, which would be good, because I would really have no idea about that. It's better that way, I think, to decide how it went without worrying about the more or less meaningless matter of how I compared to those who happened to show up and race my category, had they actually shown up, and had I. But instead of being at peace, no matter the result, I feel only a gap, a void, a lack, a profound sense of nothingness. The absence of any feeling about the race, because there was no race, there was no course, there was no pit zone, there were no team tents or trailers, there was no podium, and there was nobody there at all at Fort Ord and the gentle dunes that would have been the course. Well, to be really accurate, surely there were hawks and rodents and earthworms. It is possible one or more of these creatures perceived something different this year. No groaning of cars and trucks and racers, no whirring and clunking of chains, no ticking of freewheels, no static sound of tires on dirt, no cheering, no PA system, no nothing. This year there was only, to quote the poet Peter Kane Dufault, one huge hush the whole day.